podcast, biggest podcast in the UK is American podcast. It's Joe Rogan. It's just you see that huge influence. And let's see Shits and Gigs as an example. They're big in the UK. They're really big, but they have such a huge American fan base as well, which tells you that they have made their content relatable across all places and seasons.
From the BBC to YouTube influencers, the UK for sure is still a cultural powerhouse. But as globalism diluted British identity, what do you think, Malik?
For that question, generally, I would say yes, a bit. And I'm just looking at the old UK comedy, the old UK movies, and how popular they were, how original they were as well to British culture. And looking at today, the biggest things in the UK. Biggest podcast in the UK is American podcast. It's Joe Rogan. It's just you see that huge influence. And let's see Shits and Gigs as an example. They're big in the UK. They're really big, but they have such a huge American fan base as well, which tells you that they have made their content relatable across all bases in that sense.
Yeah.
Right. When you look at the Chunks, the Finny, the Sidemen, look at how much American link they now have. When you look at KSI, for example, and so it tells you that the biggest things coming out of the UK these days, it has the accent. Well, it's not as original as the British dry 100%. Jokes that you used to get before. You sort of just don't see those things anymore. So I would say it has been diluted. They still have the culture. Because that's one thing that we have to say. There's still something like the British culture. There's still the fish and chip stuff. And of course, technology development is helping them to be relevant globally.
Yeah.
To be honest. Because you've still got the basketballers, the footballers, the sports, it's helping the UK a lot to be relevant. I would say that's a plus for them. They still have the culture. It's not just as mainstream anymore. Their mainstream culture today is for sure diluted, right? And you can ask the question, should the British identity be something to uphold and retain? If I would be British, I would say yes. Yeah. So from a third party perspective, I don't want to say that their culture should disappear. But I can't say if the globalism bit is fully negative now, because I think this is still what makes them relevant today. This one is a bit tough. I think I'm sort of in the middle in this.
I totally agree with you. I think it's necessary for them to go global like that. You were talking about this podcast that I even have like a few of some other ones that are also top podcasts, but you can't really tell if this is an American. Like, I'll give you an example. We have Steve, right? Steve Vannet. It's almost creating American content, right? Like, you also have this Professor Galloway. Yeah. So I think for them, they leaned into the idea of, if we have to go global, we have to go the American way because of the strong market and hold they have on things like this. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think in that space, it's definitely working out for them, because if you go into like music, for example, when you try to sort of do this cultural thing, at best, it will cut across Europe, maybe, for example, like the grime kind of rap, for example. Like, most Americans will listen to it and they will laugh about, like, I have seen them on this radio show, like they were laughing, like, well, what is this? Like, and for me, I find it interesting. I love to listen to it, but that's a typical UK thing, right? Yeah. So I think, like, marketing wise, or if you want to think about, like, reaching a lot of people, that has really worked for them. One aspect that I would say, maybe it's they need to preserve, like, the culture, the UK culture, would be probably in comedy. I think this guy said it best. His name, he's a comedian. He's called Ricky Gervais. He's this. I find him quite funny, and but this is not even peculiar to the UK. It's like this new movement of what you can say or what you can't say in comedy these days, where everything is sort of being censored. And I don't know what the culture is when it comes to comedy in UK, but I think they have this different sort of angle to comedy they can be quite mean sometimes. They can be dry. It could also be like dark humor. And I think a lot of UK people fuck with that, right? But I don't think that cuts across. Like, I think they'll get cancelled easily if they try to sell that in the US market. We know how US can be liberal and progressive, and this sort of yeah things. But for me, I would say maybe they need to preserve that. But for sure, for the most part, I think the tech culture, like this whole influencer or like podcasting thing, is definitely a plus, a good thing, and it hasn't really diluted. Maybe it has a little bit. But it's
I mean, the
necessary.
accent is still there. I mean, as I said, it's just the part where you get like, what's going on? Because the accent is still there. And once you get the accent, you're like, it's British. But it's not similar to the kind of shows you get in the past. That's
Yeah, because they are not tailoring them to UK people, and
to
that's
the British
difference.
ones.
Because
Only
they are
at least,
targeting
yeah.
exactly like the
The globe.
global. Yeah,
Which is a good thing. Yeah, if the market in itself is not as big, Americans can say, I'm only doing this for the Americans, and it still works. The British people, they have to tap into the big global market
yeah.
to make the most out of it. So this one, are you saying
I'm in
globalism
between.
was
I think.
diluted? In between
Yeah,
as well?
I think a little bit. Yeah.
All right. So we're on the same page as well.